He had forgotten what it felt like to hold a trophy. 1001 days. That is how long Tom Kim waited. And on a foggy Sunday in Scotland, with his hands shaking over a 5-foot putt that meant everything, the golf world was about to watch a 24-year-old kid either complete the greatest comeback of his career, or lose it all over again in front of everyone. If you clicked on this video, you are about to hear one of the most emotional and insane comeback stories in golf this year, a story about a kid who was once compared to Tiger Woods, who then disappeared from the top of the sport for almost 3 years, and who just walked back into the spotlight in a way that even his harshest critics could not deny. Stay with me for the next 15 seconds, because what happens on the back nine of this tournament is something you will not believe actually happened live, on camera, in front of thousands of people. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why Tom Kim said the words that are now being repeated across every golf channel in the world, that he is more proud of never giving up than he is of the trophy itself. Before we go any further, if stories like this hit you the way they hit me, stories about people who get knocked down again and somehow find a way to stand back up, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Not because I am asking for a favor, but because there is something powerful about watching someone fight through failure in front of millions of people and come out the other side. If you needed a reminder today that your bad stretch does not define you, that setbacks are not the end of your story, this video is that reminder. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's get into exactly how this unfolded. Let's rewind the clock, because to understand how big this moment actually was, you need to understand where Tom Kim came from, and just how far he fell before this comeback happened. Tom Kim was not supposed to be just another good golfer. He was supposed to be special. Born in South Korea, Kim built his early reputation as one of the most exciting amateur talents in the world, and when he turned professional, he did not ease his way onto the PGA Tour. He exploded onto it. In 2022, Kim won his first 2 PGA Tour events before he even turned 21 years old. Think about that for a second. The only other player to do that before turning 21 was Tiger Woods, back in 1996. That is the company Tom Kim was keeping. Not journeyman pros. Not solid tour players. Tiger Woods. And it did not stop there. By the time he was 21, Kim had already won a 3rd PGA Tour title. He played in the President's Cup. He became one of the faces of the next generation of golf, the kind of player broadcasters build entire storylines around, the kind of player brands want on billboards, the kind of player who gets asked in every interview, "Are you the next big thing?" Here is the part of the story that most people forget though, and it is actually where this whole journey really begins. Before any of those wins, before the President's Cup, before the comparisons to Tiger Woods, Tom Kim showed up at a tournament called the Genesis Scottish Open back in 2022 as basically a nobody on the PGA Tour. He did not have full status. He was not guaranteed a spot in the biggest events. He was just a young international player trying to prove he belonged. And at that very tournament, at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick, Scotland, he finished 3rd. That result was enough to push him towards special temporary membership on the PGA Tour. Within weeks of that finish, he won the Wyndham Championship. His entire career, the wins, the fame, the comparisons to Tiger, all of it can be traced back to what happened at that one Scottish Open years before anyone knew his name. Keep that in your mind, because it is going to matter a lot in a few minutes. After that breakout run, Kim kept adding to his resume. He won the Shriners Children's Open, then he won it again the following year, becoming a 2-time champion of that event. He was playing in majors. He was playing in team events. He looked, by every measure, like a young superstar who was only going to keep climbing. And then, almost overnight, it all just stopped. After that Shriners Children's Open win in October of 2023, Tom Kim did not win again. Not for the rest of that season. Not the following season. Not the season after that. 66 starts went by, 66 tournaments where fans expected him to break through again, and 66 tournaments where he did not. In 2024 and 2025 combined, he had a grand total of 3 top 10 finishes. 0 wins. 0 top 25 finishes in any of the 8 major championships played across those 2 years. For a player who had been compared to Tiger Woods just a couple of years earlier, that stretch was brutal. It was not just a slump. It was a fall. Kim actually dropped outside the top 150 players in the world, a stunning collapse for someone who had once been ranked as high as world number 11. Imagine that for a second. You are 21 years old. You have already beaten records that only Tiger Woods had beaten before you. Every golf commentator on television is talking about your future. And then, suddenly, you cannot buy a win. You watch other young players pass you by. You watch your own name slide further and further down the world rankings, week after week, tournament after tournament, with no signs of it turning around. That is not just a bad run of form. That is the kind of stretch that breaks careers. That is the kind of stretch that makes a young star doubt whether the version of himself that everyone fell in love with even still exists. And it is worth pausing here, because this is the part of professional sports that a lot of people never talk about. When you are 20 years old and winning majors worth of attention, the world builds this story around you, this narrative of a can't-miss superstar. But nobody prepares you for what happens when the wins stop coming. There is no roadmap for how to handle 66 tournaments without a win when you already know what winning feels like. There is no roadmap for staying confident when the whole golf world starts asking out loud whether you peaked too early. Tom Kim had to face all of that, in public, on television, every single week. But here is where the story starts to turn, and this is where it gets interesting. Heading into the season, there were small signs that something was shifting. Kim was making cuts again. He had made the cut in 15 of the 17 events he played this year alone, a much more consistent stretch than the disaster of the previous 2 seasons. And then came a signal that this drought might actually be ending. At this year's US Open, one of the toughest, most mentally demanding tests in all of golf, Tom Kim finished in 3rd place. Not top 25. Not a nice, quiet result to build on quietly. 3rd place, at a major championship, against the best players alive. That finish did 2 things. First, it locked him into an automatic spot in the 2027 US Open. And second, and more importantly for anyone watching closely, it told the golf world that whatever had been broken in Tom Kim's game over those 2 lost years, it was starting to repair itself. The talent had never left. The results were finally starting to catch up to it again. But even with that 3rd place finish fresh in his memory, Kim arrived at his next big test with something on the line that was even bigger than most people realized. He had failed to qualify for both the Masters and the PGA Championship earlier that same year. 2 of the 4 biggest tournaments in golf, and Tom Kim, once the fastest rising star in the sport, was not even in the field. That is how far he had fallen. A player who once looked destined to be a fixture at every major for the next 15 years was now watching some of them from home. So when the tour rolled into Scotland for the Genesis Scottish Open, the tournament that had launched his career in the first place, there was a lot more riding on that week than just another chance to win. It was a chance to return to the exact place where his story began, at a moment when his career desperately needed a new beginning. Now here is where the tournament itself gets wild, so pay attention, because the finish is unbelievable. The Genesis Scottish Open is played at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick, Scotland, one of the most respected co-sanctioned events on both the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, and this year's field was stacked. This was not some lesser event where Tom Kim could sneak a win against a watered-down group of players. This was the strongest field of his entire career. Scottie Scheffler, the number 1 ranked golfer in the entire world, was in the field. Rory McIlroy was there. Matt Fitzpatrick was there. So was Min Woo Lee, one of the most explosive shot makers on tour. If Tom Kim was going to end this drought, he was going to have to do it against everybody. And almost immediately, the tournament threw a twist nobody expected. Weather delays, thick fog rolling in off the Scottish coastline, pushed play so far behind schedule that the 3rd round could not even finish on Saturday night. It had to be completed early Sunday morning, turning the final day into an exhausting marathon of golf, with players finishing round 3 and then almost immediately turning around to tee off in the final round on the very same day. That is an insane physical and mental grind, the kind of situation where fatigue and nerves can make even the best players in the world start making mistakes. In the middle of all that chaos, there was another storyline developing that shocked everyone watching. Scottie Scheffler, the best player alive, the man who almost never misses a cut, shot a 2 over 72 in the 2nd round and missed the cut by 2 strokes. Scheffler had made the cut in 78 consecutive tournaments before that week, the longest active streak among any player on tour. Gone. Just like that. If you needed proof that this tournament was going to be unpredictable, that was it. The number 1 player in the world, one of the most dominant golfers of this entire generation, was going home before the weekend even started. So with Scheffler out of the picture, the door was wide open. And when that delayed 3rd round finally wrapped up early Sunday morning, the leaderboard had 2 names at the very top, Matt Fitzpatrick and Michael Thorbjornsen. Tom Kim was not leading. He was chasing. This is the moment where I need you to really picture the pressure Tom Kim was under. After nearly 3 years without a win. After watching his world ranking collapse. After missing 2 majors he should have played in. After everything that had gone wrong since his last victory, he woke up on the final day of this tournament, in the same country, at the same golf course where his entire career had first taken off, sitting behind the leaders, needing something special just to have a chance. And then he delivered exactly that. Kim came out of the gate, and started making birdies almost immediately, 3 of them through his first 7 holes. That kind of fast start does something to a leaderboard. It puts pressure on everyone else, because suddenly the guy who was supposed to be an afterthought is climbing up the board in real time, and the leaders can feel him coming. Kim kept pushing. He made another birdie on the par 4 10th hole. Then another on the par 5 12th. Just like that, the kid who had started the day chasing had built himself a 3-shot lead. But this is golf, and leads in golf are never safe, especially not against a player like Min Woo Lee, who is one of the streakiest, most dangerous ball strikers when he gets hot. And Lee did get hot. He started clawing his way back into contention, shot after shot, cutting into Kim's advantage until that 3-shot cushion had shrunk all the way down to just 1 single stroke. 1 shot. After everything Tom Kim had been through, after nearly 3 years of nothing, his entire chance at ending this drought had come down to a 1-shot margin with the back 9 still to play. This is exactly the kind of moment that breaks players who have been through what Tom Kim had been through. When you have failed over and over again for years, when the golf world has watched you struggle in public tournament after tournament, a moment like that, a 1-shot lead slipping away in real time, is when the doubt creeps back in. It is when players start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. It is when careers like the one Kim had once been on track for either get saved, or get buried even deeper. Tom Kim did not fold. On the par 4 16th hole, with Min Woo Lee breathing down his neck and the entire tournament hanging in the balance, Kim hit a gorgeous approach shot that set up his 6th birdie of the round. He drained it. That birdie stretched his lead back out to 2 shots, and it was the exact kind of answer a player needs to send at a moment like that, a message to everyone chasing him that he was not going to back down. Then, on the par 3 17th, at 195 yards, with every eye on the golf course fixed on him, Kim found his 15th green in regulation out of the round, landing his tee shot close to a front bunker but in complete control of the situation. He was rolling. 14 greens found before that hole, now 15 out of 17 for the day, and it was becoming clear to everyone watching that this was not a fluke round. This was a player who had rediscovered exactly how to play the kind of golf that made him a star in the first place, and then came the moment that will be replayed for years. Standing over a 5-foot putt to seal the tournament, Tom Kim took his time. Anyone who watched it live could see it in his body language, the weight of everything, nearly 3 years of frustration, the missed majors, the collapse in the world rankings, all of it sitting right there on that putting green.